All right. So let's officially get started. I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then we'll dive right in.
All right.
So my name's Dusty. I've been a navigator and a mentor or member of Mastrius for a little over 2 years. And I've had the opportunity to mentor underneath some absolutely fantastic and amazing artist mentors. And it's just been a wonderful experience for me here at Mastrius. I'm really excited about navigating for Joe's group and working with him through this. So I'm really looking forward to this. Joe, if you guys don't already know, some of you do, Joe's been a professional quilt artist since 1979. He began making quilts from his hometown of Flint, Michigan, before moving to San Francisco, where he maintains his own gallery studio and where he joins us from today. So welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Dusty. Welcome to everybody that's here. I'm happy to see. I can't tell how many people are here, but I guess there's more than Anne. So I'm just going to start talking, is what I'm going to do. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. The way I got started was, oh boy. I was a guitar player, and I met somebody that was interested in quilts and was doing a quilting project, a documentation project, and needed a writer. And I'd always wanted to be a writer. So I offered to help her write the booklet catalog about this collection. And she told me I'd have to learn about quilts. And also I'd have to interview this old lady that was whose collection it was being documented. An old lady named Mary Schaefer, who had been born in 1910 in Hungary. And I've always had a thing about old ladies. I like them. Maybe it's because I didn't have any grandmothers. I don't know. But I was interested in meeting Mary, and I started writing this biography of her. And then Gwen Marston, who had introduced me to her and whose project this was, said, if you're going to learn to, if you're going to write about quilts, you got to read all the literature about quilts, and you've got to learn how to quilt. And she showed me the hand quilting stitch. And then next thing you know, I was wanting to make my own quilt, and we started making quilts together. So Gwen and I made quilts all through the 1980s, wrote a bunch of books about them. And stayed together until 1991 or 2. And then when we split up, I moved around a little bit and ended up out here in San Francisco. I got married and I had a couple kids, and I'm out here still. So the main thing about my story is that it was under Mary that I was inspired to learn about quilt history. Mary thought you had to be a historian of quilts. She thought you had to be a technician of quilts. You had to be an artist of quilts. You had to be an engineer to engineer all the parts of a quilting design. I thought that's what you had to do. So Mary was my teacher. So that's what I did. Gwen and I copied old quilts for about 10 years. We copied old quilts and imitated old quilt styles. So that was pretty much like going to quilt college for me, was copying old quilts and learning to think in the way that old time quilt makers thought. I figured that's what I would do the rest of my life, would be to copy and imitate old quilts. Now, at a certain point, I realized that that wasn't accomplishing what I wanted to do as far as honoring the women of the 19th century that I revered so much. And I realized that what I should do is what they did, which was to put myself on the line. I should make my quilts the way only I could make them, from with all of my limitations and abilities and understandings and misunderstandings and experiences, everything that I have that nobody else has, my DNA and my experiences. is all I have to offer. But what I should do is let those ideas and experiences and abilities do what they could to make something truly original, make something that that I could say was mine. So starting 20 some years ago, that's what I started doing. So the quilts that I make nowadays they don't look very much like blankets, you know. They are they look more like art than like blankets, which is my idea. Um, uh, while I learned how to make quilts, and I still make a quilt, I'm making things that you can wrap up in against the coldness of the universe, and that you could sleep under at night, which I do sometimes when I'm in a hotel on the road. I often get one of my own quilts out to sleep under. But they should also, what I'm trying to accomplish is that they should also look at home on the walls of a museum. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish here, is to make things, to make quilts themselves that are also works of art. I don't see any conflict there. Many artists, many quilt artists rather, when they become intellectually serious about quilts and artistically serious, the first thing they do is to stop making quilts. They start making smaller things that can function more easily as a wall piece. They start, and they don't like to be called quilt makers. They want to be called artists. Well, I'm a quilt artist. I'm making quilts and I'm making art all at the same time. There's no conflict there in my mind. Curators have bought my quilts in major museums, and collectors have bought my quilts and continue to. Here in San Francisco, I have a street level gallery that I can show you around and give you an idea of where it is that I work at and from. How about that?
Yeah.
Good. So if you look out the front window, you can see where somebody splashed acid on my window. That was very nice of them. But there's also a sculpture here by a friend of mine, another artist named Oliver DeChico. He's my friend and neighbor. And I really needed something in this shop window, you know, so I put one of his kinetic sound sculptures in each of my windows. So you can see, this is what the front looks like. Yeah. This is what it's like looking outside. People can see in, people walk by all day long. Sometimes they stare and do a double take and go, huh? What's that? Sometimes they knock on the door and want to know what I'm doing here. So I have so then if you come in the front door, you can see my gallery. It's a working gallery. I have my long arm. I can't do without it, and there's no place else in my building to put it. So I have my long arm here. I have my quilt storage unit, custom made by me, which is made of expensive 2x4s and nails with conduit to hang the quilts on. So you can, so I can hang my quilts flat and I don't have to have them folded up for storage. Storing your art is a real issue. Here's what I have in my long arm today. I just got the horizontal lines done here, and then I'm quilting over the horizontal lines. I'm programming is it still up here? A village from 2,000 years ago. So I'm the layout of a village. this quilt is going to be called Lost Village. Here's my desk. Quilts, quilts, quilts. That's what this is all about out here. But also, let me just, before I go any further, also let me just point out, I have a big open space. And what that means is that I can teach here. In the past, I haven't had, I've had to rent places if I wanted to run my own classes. It's extremely helpful to have my own space for teaching, because that's part of my, it's part of my artistic life is teaching. And it's something that we'll be talking about as time goes on, that many of my favorite artists made their living for a long time as teachers. Someday maybe I won't be teaching anymore, but for now, and for the last 44 years, it's been a big part of my income as a professional quilt maker is teaching others. And it's something that I love to do, and I don't feel put upon by it. I'm
So
a
let me
lucky
ask you,
person.
Joe,
Yeah.
so what brought you to Mastrius then?
I was recruited by Mastrius. Somebody, Julie, I think, wrote to me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing something like this. I said, "What is it? What is it? What's Mastrius?" And so I went and looked at it, and I realized that Mastrius is a format for doing exactly what I wanted to do anyway. A lot of the teaching that I do involves, projects or sewing assignments and that sort of thing. But what I don't get to teach very much is I don't get to this mentoring thing that I've always wanted to do. I love, and I don't get asked often enough by young people, say, "So Joe, what about this? How do I do that?" And I love to talk about it, like, because so much of being an artist seems like a mystery. It seems like this complicated, it's like a high wall that you have to somehow find a way to scale and to jump over. And it's not easy, but it's not impossible either. But it's really helpful to have some tips, to have some information about how to get from not being a working artist to being a working artist. So anyway, yeah, Mastrius gave me that format.
Yeah, and we're certainly lucky to have you. Let me see. I'm really excited for it anyways.
Oh, good. Are people, there's no questions so far. I can just keep talking?
Not so far. Yeah.
All right.
Keep going.
All right. So here I am. I have my custom.
I do have a question. Is this how you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Hi, Susie.
Hi. Good to see you. So do you believe this is more for someone who wants to become, as you say, a working artist, someone who wants to make a living at it, or just stretch themselves, or what do you think?
Well, that's a good question, and I think it's suitable really for either. There'll be things that I'll talk about as a working artist, but what it's all about is, to me, is how is finding your own voice in quilts and maturing that voice. So I don't know, you have a pretty distinctive voice as it is, what would be great would be for you to have a gallery where, if you ever wanted to sell your stuff. But I'm not even sure what your aims are with quilts. Do you know what your aims are?
I enjoy the creative process tremendously. I don't like thinking I'm making it so somebody else will like it. And but yet I have been lacking stimulation. And of course, for those of you in the group, I have taken several workshops from Joe in the past. And when I discovered him, I was absolutely thrilled because I do not believe in geometric. I think it's not that I don't believe in them, but I wanted to, you got to be careful. Let's just say that G's Ben made me do cartwheels when I first saw their things. And
Yeah.
I only use garments for fabric. And yeah, Joe could tell better what my style is, but I do have a style, but I guess I want to understand it better and be, but again, maybe Joe doesn't want to, maybe we've done enough together. I don't know, but certainly you're not trying to teach me your way. And that's what I've liked a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
that-
My idea is to help you find your way.
yes.
That's what I'm all about.
And that's what Mastrius is about really too. Right?
Yeah.
These artists helping other artists to find their own way. And
Yeah.
that's the thing I really like about it too.
Yeah.
I think I fought traditional so hard and was so mad at those people that wanted me to conform that I stopped realizing how much, what's the word you use? We're working with other people, help me and
Yeah.
need to collaboration. That's the word, isn't it? And I guess I'm being selfish here, wanting to have collaboration again. And so I thought that might come through this. And this is only my second time to use Zoom in 3 years. And so that's been my hardest part, is going along with technology.
I can relate to that. Not so up to speed on any of that either. And my reasons for wanting to participate in this are similar. Just stretching myself to a higher level of creativity, a more sophisticated approach in blending the negative and the positive, maybe more adventure and color. Some things that Joe is just fantastic in observing, suggesting, and I find that quilting is more fun with Joe. It's just more fun with Joe.
There you go.
And so that it's just about stretching. It is about listening and meeting other people. The way other participants are facing the challenge of finding their voice and their way, and it's just so this format is an adventure, and
Yeah.
I'm rusty on everything technologically as well. Not Zoom is not it's something I regularly do, and I think I have an Instagram account, but I don't know if there's anything on it. So I give my daughter to get me a little bit up to speed, so I'm not quite so archaic. And but I'm just doing this for fun and stretching and meeting other people.
Good. Well, so this is the people in the group are going to partly dictate, what my approach. But what for me, I'm how do I even say it? For me, quilt making is life and death. It's where I go to put everything on the line. This is everything I got is what I'm doing with every single quilt, and this is and I want to give people the confidence to do that, and the tools. You got to have a few tools. I'm not going to make Susie use a ruler. I've tried that before. It doesn't work. But the tools, I mean the artistic tools, the techniques, and the ways of thinking about projects that can help you make work that's more confident and personal. Yeah, that's the whole idea.
Good. Like it.
Awesome.
Mhm. Here, let me just show you around my studio before I get sidetracked anymore. This is my cutting table. I got a book. I just got back from England where I had a show there. And this is one of the first books that I ever read, Patchwork by Averill Colby. You can tell it's an old-fashioned book because she wrote two in the 1970s called, and one is called Patchwork, one is called Quilting. You know, book titles like that would never fly with a publisher nowadays. The magic of patchwork, quilting your way to happiness and that sort of stuff. But anyway, and I got this, it's not a first edition, but it's a very old edition and it's got a lot of nice plates in it. And I don't remember this quilt in my,
Wow.
in my later edition of it. I'm not sure, maybe it's in there and I just never caught my eye before. But look at that, isn't that something else? It's a process called intarsia. And I just ran into a quilt in England that was made with an intarsia technique. And then I remembered that I had this book here. There was a show in the, well, it traveled around to some different museums. It's called, but this is Wartime Quilts by Annette Giro, Gero. And it's full of this kind of intarsia. These are a lot of soldiers' uniforms that are cut apart and sewn back together, but they're not, they're inlaid. And people, they do images, they do pictures of people and animals and very organic shapes where the pieces are cut out of they're inlaid in there somehow. And I don't understand it. I looked at the one in England like this far away and felt it and everything. I could not comprehend how it's made. It's just fascinating. Like you would have to have some kind of a die cut thing to cut that figure out with that kind of precision of both the foreground and the background. And then how do you sew them together? I don't understand it. So this is a research project for me. It's open here on my table. I'm going to look into this and see how is that done, because it's also a process that's used in the oldest known quilt, the Pazyryk panel from 2,000 years ago or more. I think they have a panel in here. Yeah. This is from 300 BC, found on a Scythian chieftain tomb's floor. That's wool, and see those shapes are cut out of the white background, and these colored pieces are inset in there. And I don't understand it. I don't understand how they do it, and I want to know more about that. So now, this is my table. I'm very tall. I mean, I'm 6'4". I don't mean that I'm very tall, but I'm tall, and most tables don't work for me. So I had a tall table made. It's 4 feet high instead of 30 inches or something. So this is better for my back. I can cut here, and then I can sew over here, and then the iron over here, press and iron, and then put fabric up on my design wall. Here's some stuff. I just picked up this piece of Dutch wax African fabric from a dealer in Birmingham, England, and I want to do something with it. And when I'm choosing fabrics, I really go for contrast. That's what I go for. So this is a couple of fabrics that I had on my shelf. This somebody gave to me. This is sitting on my shelf for a long time. Here's a pair of pants that my niece outgrew. And so I use fabric from all different kinds of sources. So anyway, I can pin stuff up there. I can cut, sew, press, and then put stuff up on the design wall. That's how I work. I don't use sketches or anything. I'm not against sketches. I just don't use them. Also, as you can see, here's my library. So when I'm doing research on things, which I always am, I can go through my books and find very often what I need to find, except anything on intarsia. I can't find that.
Well, pretty soon you'll have a whole library for that too.
Yeah, pretty soon. I have a utility room, the insane luxury of my setup here, a utility room with a sink and a storage room, where I get to keep all my fabric and all my mistakes. The crazy things that I've done wrong. You can see over here, for instance, these boxes, this stack of boxes that's showing up. Yeah, this is a whole bunch of copies of a book called Men and the Art of Quilt Making. It's a hot topic. It's so hot that over 48 people bought the book out of the 5,000 that were printed. And I ended up buying a couple thousand that were left over at the end. So if you want one, I have them for a very reasonable price. Also up here is the kits that I designed one time, that when Marianne Fons won one of those kits that I donated at an auction one time, she opened it up and said, and announced that it was the worst kit in the world. And I designed it myself and made 1,000 of them and sold 2. So I have made mistakes in the past, that's for sure. But then I have other things have worked out. So here's quilts, old quilts that I've made, old quilts in my collection, quilt tops, and so on. They're all sorted out. And then my fabric, which is not a lot by most quilt makers' standards. And then over here, I have blue jeans to use. I have work clothes, paint spattered work clothes to use, stuff that people have given me, scraps, and all kinds of stuff in there. So this is my storage unit, my storage room. I don't know if I ever have to move out of here, what I'm going to do. Because I've managed to inhabit this entire space. So what I want to do with this program, this Mastrius program, is to first give some creative advice. That's going to be the high on my list of things to do. I'll be given some kind of assignments for your work. It might just be mental assignments, but we need to think about how to get your work to the place where you think it could go and would like it to go. I'll be talking about how to approach galleries, which is very tricky as a quilt maker, because there's very few gallery owners that are interested in what you do. Oh, I have an announcement telling me, an alarm telling me that I have a meeting at 5. There you go. Here's and I'm actually in the middle of it. So where was I? Gallery owners, curators, the importance of going to museums and getting to know curators. They can be some of the best sources of information. And if you live in a small town, curators might be more readily available to talk to at smaller places than it might be easier to get in touch with them than in big cities, but that's also possible in big cities. I've proven it. The importance of writing down what you think and what you feel, and the importance of learning about art and about what other and other artists. It's so to me, it's prime. It's a big part of my life is studying art and studying the lives of other artists and what they thought and said and think and say, because I can read things and recognize, oh yes, oh I now somebody else put words to that feeling that I had that I didn't know how to articulate, and it helps me clarify things. Some people have the idea, I believe, that studying other people's art is something they shouldn't do because it would influence you away from doing your own stuff. Well, that's not the way it actually works. The way it works is the more you look at, the more art you look at, the wider open can be the blinders that we have on naturally. We only see this much, and if we can look more, we can see more. It's the way I feel about it. So I'll be showing some examples of art that that I like and think about, and we'll be talking about some of the ideas that I live by, and I'll be listening to you and answering your questions as we go along too. So there'll be part of it will be me talking, which is something that I love to do, and part of it will be you talking and talking and asking and talking about what you're doing. I'll be checking in at every meeting with your current project and what's going on with you, and we'll talk about that and see what you know, how it fits in with what everybody else is seeing and feeling and doing, and what I have to offer about what you're doing and seeing and feeling. So that's what I have in mind. Any other questions about what we want to do here?
I actually have a question for you, Joe.
Yeah, Dusty.
Have you ever had what's called artist block?
Artist block, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How did you manage to deal with that?
Well, here's a for instance. I want to think of where to start with this. I'm also a musician. I was a guitar player.
Yeah, it's working, but it's not there.
What did Susie say?
Oh, she went on mute, so I think she was talking to somebody else.
Oh, I see. I was a guitar player and then a songwriter, and I've written musicals and all kinds of stuff. Never had any success with it, but I have kept writing songs my whole life. And the way I like to write songs is if I have a subject and I have a subject to write a song about and a deadline, then I can write. For me, if I don't have those things, then I don't write. And I feel like I have writer's block. I don't write because I pick up my guitar and I play things that I already know, and I do things that I know how to do on the guitar. And I don't end up writing anything new. And I think, well, what should I write about? Well, I don't know. And then last night, friends of mine had a big anniversary party for their 25th anniversary. These are very close friends of mine. And so starting about 5 days ago, I thought, oh, I know what I should do. I should write them a song. Oh yeah. And okay, how would I do? Well, in about 8 minutes, I had the bones of the song written, and then I got it done in time to perform it at their party last night to great effect. So part of the stuff that people experience as writer's block, I think, is lack of a deadline. Deadlines, real or imagined, have a profound effect on writer's block, on artist's block. If there's a show that you want to enter, and the deadline is 3 weeks from now, well, that makes it easier to do something for me. I don't know about everybody else. So that's one way I've dealt with it, is deadlines. In quilt making, in my in this kind of art, it's a slow process. I'm not going to be teaching you time-saving things. I'm not interested. I'm not in production as far as that goes. Like getting more and more, pumping out more and more and more stuff. I'm interested in doing whatever it is I'm doing, and it taking as long as it takes. So anyway, so it's a slow process, and while I don't have a ton of ideas, I have ideas generally enough to go around so that I don't end up with much writer's block. However, sometimes I'll get to my studio and I've finished a quilt and I don't know what I'm going to do next. And right now, in fact, the quilt that I'm quilting in the long arm there is going to be done shortly, in a few days. And then I have to start on another project and I don't know what it's going to be. And so in that case, I have a technique. And my technique is to take a piece of the fabric that I'm going to be using and cutting it. I make a cut in some fabric, and then I put it with another piece of fabric. And then I'm working on a project. You have to make that first cut. Then I'm going, and the ideas then start coming thick and fast. So the way I think about it is that the ideas are in the fabric. They're inside the fabric, and you have to cut the fabric to free the ideas. That's the way I think about it, and that's what works for me. Is if I don't have an idea and I need to start something, then by golly, I'll cut through some precious fabric, some stuff that I've been afraid to cut into, maybe. And then I'm going. What's that, Susie?
I have a question for Dusty, probably. I don't understand the different levels very much. It sounds like, I guess, what level do you need to take for getting to interact with Joe? It seemed to me when I looked through the site, they talked about something for $14 a month and something for $16 a month and something for $64 a month. And I didn't understand the difference between those levels.
Yeah, so Mastrius has several levels. They now have beginners levels as well. And they do that just so that they can cater to a wider range of artistical readiness, I guess you could call it, right? So this particular group that's starting next Saturday is what we call an emerging group. So technically speaking, the people in this group would be quilters, experienced quilters, and ready to take or have started to take their quilting to the next level where they're wanting to enter a gallery or shows or that sort of thing, right? So that's kind of the emerging level. There's a beginner's level and an aspiring level. So the aspiring level is just before the emerging, right? That is where you've been doing this as a hobby and you're just starting to think about doing it for more, than a hobby, right? But you don't really know yet. So you're still kind of, still in that hobby kind of mode. And then beginners, that's exactly what it is. It's people who are just starting out. So they don't have much quilting experience or that sort of thing. They haven't done this before, don't know what it's like. We
So
don't,
this group we're talking today, I'm sorry I'm so thick.
okay, no, it's
But
fine.
those of us who decide to do this with Joe, out of the people that are on this talk,
Yeah.
would be a group, and that we would be an emerging group.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I'm just thick sometimes, so.
Nope.
No.
Mastrius is something new, right? It's never been done before, right? So it's all new. So the more questions you ask, the better information we can give you, right?
Joe, one of the things I remember when we talked about either a block on how to start or a block when you're midstream. And I remember you saying to start with an idea and then have confidence in your idea, which that makes sense. But the next thing you said was, so if it's going wrong, and just stick with your idea and just do more of it. I remember, just keep going,
Yeah.
do more of it. You always said do more of it. And actually, it's very solid advice. I mean, it's just wonderful. Every time I get kind of like stuck, I'm like, oh, no, it's just no. And I said, and I can hear Joe saying, just you trust your idea, do more of it.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. That's something that I talk about a lot. This idea that about what happens. You've heard my lecture on it. Susie's heard my lecture on it. But what happens in the creative process is that you, by making something, you make yourself vulnerable. No matter how tough you are, no matter what kind of a cowgirl you are, you're making yourself vulnerable when you make something that's your own thing and you put it out there in the world. And there's a part of you that doesn't want you to be vulnerable. There's a part of you that wants you to not be vulnerable and to not take that chance of being out in the world and having somebody say something or think something hurtful or something. So but it's not even that. It's not even that articulated. It's just there's a part of you that wants to protect you, and that part starts talking to you. At least this is the way I experience it, and telling you this idea that you're working on is a dumb idea. It's a stupid thing that you never should have started. And now you can look at it with fresh eyes and realize, oh, that's stupid. I might as well just cut it in half and just start over because it's stupid and I'm not doing it. And it starts telling you those kind of ideas. And you're right, Anne. And the point that I was trying to make is that you have to work right through that stuff. Those ideas are going to come, and you have to know that you're going to hear these voices in your head. I hear them as voices. I don't know how everybody else hears them, but I hear them as voices criticizing my idea and telling me that it's worthless and I should change the tactics here. I should change horses in the middle of the stream. All these cliches. And what I keep coming back to over and over, and I come back to it in my own work over and over and over, and that is that it doesn't matter what your idea is. The seed of the idea that you were working with is not important. That's to me. What's important is your total commitment to that idea. You have to be totally committed to that idea. And when those voices start talking to you and telling you that it's not a good idea when you're halfway or 2/3 of the way through, you have to let them just go through your mind and not pay them any attention and stay totally committed to this idea that you started with. Because the idea is a fine one. And we don't have to have some grand idea to make a work of art. It can be, you know, look at how many great paintings there are of a vase of flowers. Look at how many simple landscapes there are. It doesn't have to be anything profound at all. It can be your shoes. You know, it can be your hair. It can be that chair over there. It doesn't matter what the idea is. But what matters is your complete commitment to it. And that's the only thing that's that's the only thing that matters from my point of view, that you bring your whole self to it. Yeah. I know you heard that lecture before, but there it is again.
It's still a good.
Yeah, I'm an evangelist about this. To me, you know, it's hard enough to make art. It's hard enough to make money at it. It's hard enough to do all of this stuff, and then you have on top of it just being difficult in every other way. On top of it, you have these insecurities that are like carrying a sack of cement on your back, you know, and it makes it even harder. And we need to have strategies for dealing with those. So one of the things that I do, is something that we can talk about a lot, is I decide what I'm going to do, and even when I don't know what it's going to look like. Here's a simple idea. This is an old quilt. I made it about the years on there somewhere, 2006. It's 2010, not that old, 13 years, but it's been around for a while. So we were in Baghdad. The United States was in Baghdad at that time. And what infuriated me was that it's the cradle of civilization there, you know, it's the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers where they come together. And we were poisoning them. Everybody was poisoning them. And we're killing people and all of this stuff right there in the cradle of civilization. Ugh. And not only that, but then I would hear these reports from the reporters that were inside the green line. If you're behind the green line, then you're safe. And then our president started talking about what was it? The different colors. So you know, the threat color. So if it's a high threat period, then it'll be red, and if it's a medium threat period, it'll be orange and yellow. I mean, so I just decided to make a river out of these black stripes. It's a black river across this almost scarily red African fabric that's wax printed, that looks well, it looks partly like neurons or something, but it also looks like explosions happened on it and everything. It's almost bloody. So I just made a black river. It's very, very simple. And across it, I put a green line, right? So that if you're on one side or the other of this green line, then you're safe. So, and I called it safety in color. It's not a heavy idea. It's a simple idea. I just wanted to have a black river. And so I just stuck with it. I didn't know exactly I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know about these other stripes. I didn't know what it was going to be. I just knew that I wanted to somehow indicate the green line, and I wanted to indicate this river being black unhappy river. And so I just started with it, and I could have chickened out at any point. Here's one that I was working on in Santa Fe. This one, I made the quilt top, and I wanted, this is about all of the rainstorms that we have been having. And I wanted to, it's called extra tropical. Some of these atmospheric rivers that we had, they called them extra tropical events. So this is called extra tropical. And I just wanted to have some kind of a structure that was falling down. And then I wanted to put some cloudiness on the top. That's all it was, a structure falling down and cloudiness on the top. The quilting, I made like the radar, the weather radar thing that shows you in the circle. So it's a bunch of those circles. They're all programmed and they're all different. But that's that's what the quilting designs are here. So it's not complicated or maybe even particularly interesting. The idea, who knows, but I committed myself to it. And now it's done for better or for worse. And I put it out there and we'll see what people say. Nobody has seen it yet, except for you. Yeah, so it hasn't been in any shows or anything. It's part of a series of quilts that I'm making for a show that I'm having at a museum on Cape Cod next summer. I'm making, I don't remember if it's 10 or 12 new quilts for it. I'm also going to wrap the entire building in vinyl, in recycled museum banners. So we applied for a grant, and I heard just recently that the grant came through. I haven't talked to the curator about it yet. So I don't know, now I have to actually do it, and I don't know how. But it's when you don't know how to do things that you learn the most.
That's
So,
exciting.
yeah, I'm thrilled about it.
That's exciting.
So, so this one, these two quilts over here, 4,000 beagles is this one. It's about the beagles that got rescued last year. This one is called Variants. I have said many times that I don't enter shows. I only have solo shows. I'm not part of a group, so I don't enter group shows. And yet, the curator from the De Young Museum came to see me recently, and she said, you should enter the Bay Area Open. The De Young Museum has this thing they do from time to time called the Bay Area Open, and anybody that lives in the Bay Area can submit a work of art. They had 7,700 entries, and I think they picked 900, and this one made it in. And I would not have entered, except the curator told me to. And when the curator tells you to do something, it behooves you to do it. So this one, and I made it for the show next summer, but there's a possibility that the museum acquires quilts or works of art sometimes. So they already own one of my quilts, and it would be nice. I'd have to hustle to make another one, but I could use the money. So we'll see what happens there. So I have, I think 7 or 8 of the quilts made that I need for this show next year. And now so I have a couple more to make, the one in the frame and
Good.
a few more.
Joe,
Yeah.
I need to check off. I've got a commitment and need to sign off. But thank you both. Susie too, nice to meet you. And look forward to whatever you've got up your sleeve, Joe.
All right. I'm looking forward to it too.
Thank you, everyone. Okay,
All
bye-bye.
right.
Thank you,
Nice to
Ann.
see you, Ann.
Bye-bye.
So yeah, we got about 5 minutes left, Joe. So there's gonna be other people watching the video later on.
Oh, right.
Where can people look you up? Where can they find you? Where can they follow your work?
Yeah. www. Cunningham Quilts. Try to remember that. JoeCunninghamQuilts.com. And then I'm Joe the Quilter on Facebook and Instagram at Joe the Quilter. And you can get on my mailing list. If you go to my website, there's a place to sign up for my mailing list. Here's a professional tip for you. I used to have people write down my their email address, and then I have an assistant now, and she said, "Don't do that anymore. Just do this."
Yep.
A QR code. Yeah. Join the modern world, Joe. And it is really nice. You point your phone at it, and bingo, you get on my list. Anything else?
Wonderful. I don't know. Any last questions from anybody?
All right.
Right.
Then I guess I'll sign off and look forward to next Saturday.
Yeah. Next
I,
Saturday, the 26th.
I looked. There's a link that I could find out how many people were signed up, and I hadn't done that until now. I've been kind of busy, and so this afternoon I looked to see, and there's 4 people signed up so far. Is that right?
There's 4. So I looked it up too. There's 4 in the registration, but there's 2 that just joined. 2
Oh.
brand new people that just joined today.
Oh, great. Oh,
Yeah.
great. So it's going to go.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. All right.
So-
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm nervous
so much,
too,
Joe.
everybody. I'm nervous, but we're going to go through this together, and I'm really looking forward to it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's going to be a
Thanks,
lot of
Dusty.
fun. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody, for coming.